Hey YouTube, this is Wesley Smith here, and surprisingly today I won't be making a deck profile. Instead I'll be showing how to make a good Pokemon deck. So my first rule of deck construction is to not play too many Pokemon. The best number that works seems to be between 10 to 14 depending on the deck you're playing. And that includes attackers, support cards, evolution, chains, those things. So, well, I don't know if I should say this, but there's some extreme examples. For example, this deck I have here, which is Fairy Steel, has 18 Pokemon. And it seems like a lot, but it's a specialized deck. It's a specific deck. So in some decks you're going to run more, and in some you're going to want to run fewer. But overall 10 to 14 Pokemon is the average amount. So the Pokemon rules. My Pokemon rule is that unless you're playing Team Plasma, you want to run some sort of evolution chain. And you might want to run rare candies and Skyless, but I'll get to that later. So, for example, in this deck you have two of these. This is the basic evolution. 2 Plasma Clang, 2 Clang, and 2 Clank. This deck runs a lot of evolution because, as I said before, this is a specialized deck. Most decks will not run that many Pokemon that evolve. So don't worry if you don't have a bunch of evolving Pokemon, because you're not in trouble. So my second rule is that, my supporter rule is that, if you are playing evolution, that's stage 2s, then you need to play Skyless and rare candies. But again, this deck does not play either of those, because again, it's a specialized deck. This tends to be the deck with the most Pokemon and the most evolving, and the deck with no rare candies or Skyless. So most decks run at least one Colress, because he's great. At least one N, and at least one Professor Juniper, and at least one Skyla, which I can't show right now because I don't have them with me. So, but most decks run 4 of those, so 4 Junipers, because it's a great card. So the standard supporter tends to be 1 Colress, 4 N, 4 Skyla, and 4 Professor Juniper. And that's why I see you being played in most decks. So then, that's my only supporter rule. I don't really have anything else to say on supporters, because they won't take up a lot of space in the deck. So, items. Where to begin with items? Play items that actually tend to match the theme of the deck. Because if you're playing a deck that needs to discard a lot of energy, and you have nothing that lets you get energy back, like, let's say, Raybor, Delphox, how are you going to keep attacking unless you play a lot of energy? Well, you don't want to play a lot of energy, because then you won't have space for items or Pokemon or supporters. So, instead, what you do is that you run items that let you get them. So most decks run at least one Dowsing Machine, because Dowsing Machine lets you discard 2 to get anything. So that's why that's typically played in most decks. One Super Rod, because it lets you get back energy and Pokemon, including evolutions. Most decks are going to run 2 of these, because Startling Megaphone discards all tools. And almost every single deck plays abilities, which I will get to after items, even though I should have done it with the Pokemon. You run 2 of these because there is a card with an ability. The card's called Garbodor, that if it has a tool, it negates all abilities. This deck is very ability heavy, as are most decks that rely on abilities, which is basically every deck. So this will discard the tool and let you use your nice abilities. And most decks will also run or Ultra Ball because it lets you search for anything. So let's see, energy. Okay, so energy is going to change a lot depending on the deck. So I'll just list some decks and say what you should probably be running, because it's really weird. So if you're playing plasmas, which are outlined in blue for those of people who don't know what it is, then you will typically run 4 plasma energy, obviously, 4 double colorless energy, also called DCE, 4 prism, and 2 rainbow, although you might want to run 2 thunder, that seems to work too. So if you're playing fairy, it's 4 rainbow energy, 4 prism, and 4 fairy, although you might run 5. Raybor Delphox is typically going to be 3 lightning and 8 fire. And then anything popular, oh yeah, Xelgor Gothitelle is typically always going to be 4 double colorless energy. Those are really the only big decks I can think of. Oh no, wait. Let's see. Genesect Virizion will run typically 11 to 12 grass energy. So anyway, now let's get to abilities. So the rule for abilities is to play cards that work well with the abilities. Like, let's say you're running Plasma Deoxys or Deoxys EX. Its ability is that it gives plus 10 damage to all Team Plasma Pokemon except itself. So you don't want to build a deck that doesn't have Team Plasma Pokemon in it, because you won't get the ability and you will be wasting your space. So instead what you do is that you take a really good ability and then you play Pokemon that will work great with the ability. For example, in the Plasma Storm set, there was a card called Klinklang. So yeah, you can see that pretty well. So its ability is that it lets you, well, it doesn't let you, it makes your opponent to not do any damage to your Steel Pokemon EX. So, if it prevents any damage into Steel, why are you going to play anything other than Steel? So, that's why, if you're playing this, so that's why you would run Steel Pokemon, because it works with the ability. So, it's the same thing. For example, okay, so we can also take Raybor Delphox, because I already said Plasma. So, Raybor Delphox, Emboar, it lets you attach as many fire. Rayquaza has a 1 lightning, 1 fire, and it does 60 times the number of fire or electric energy that you choose to discard. Of course, you have to discard all. So you just attach as many as you want, and then you discard it. So that's why the ability works, because it helps your attacks. So the abilities you want to play are ones that help you do more. Are the ones that help you do more damage, prevent damage, provide effects that let you switch Pokemon at times, like Darkrai EX, and that's sort of special, but, and cards that will let you control your opponent and prevent things from what they would do. Like Virizion EX prevents damage from special conditions, or any special conditions, if that Pokemon has any grass energy. So basically, you want to play abilities that will help your deck a lot, and you want to maximize the amount of damage you can do, and yeah, and you want to. So the point of abilities is to maximize the amount of damage you can do, and minimize the damage your opponent can do, because that's typically the point of the game. Yeah, so I can show you my deck. So, this deck runs 2 Cobalion, 2 Skarmory, 2 Registeel, 1 Virizion. Yeah, this prevents status. So, it needs grass energy, let you play it because its ability will prevent damage. Darkrai EX ability will also prevent damage because it will let you retreat for free if you have the Dark Energy, and it will prevent a Pokemon from being knocked out. This will not do anything, just ignore that for now, because it only works in combination with a special card. So that will prevent damage, as I said before. So let's talk about the Pokemon that let you move energy around, because they're sort of complicated to understand. Well, not too complicated, but... So, this deck plays cards that let you move energy around. These can be hard to get into a combination, but when you can make them work, they work incredibly well. Because Aromatisse, here, it's an evolution line, lets you move as many fairy energy. But what's the point of being able to move fairy energy? I mean, it's not helping you. Aromatisse won't help you. The only point is if it's going to be knocked out, right? Well, wrong. Because there is a certain card called Max Potion that you will be playing with decks that will let you move energy. Because the Max Potion discards all energy attached to a Pokemon but heals all damage. However, this lets you move the energy, so you can move the energy off that before you heal it. So, and if you're running so many abilities like I do, then you will want to be playing energy that provide a variety. So like this. Like those, which is energy that provides a lot of different types. So basically, depending on what deck you're playing, you will be playing different cards, obviously. So let's go over the rules quickly. So play abilities that work with the Pokemon you're playing and the items. So just play abilities that really help. Play Pokemon that can do damage. Play Pokemon with abilities that can prevent damage. Play supporters that help, like play Chorus and Skyless and Junipers unless your deck is specialized. And play Dowsing Machine, Super Rod, and Ultra Ball and other cards depending on what your deck is. And then for energy, play the energy you feel like is right. But don't play more than 12 to 14. So yeah, this has been my how to build a pretty good deck. Thanks for watching, YouTube, and I'll see you later.